Hello and welcome, this is Rooflemonger. So Street Fighter V Champion Edition has now effectively dropped. And with it we get a new balance patch with a lot of interesting changes. We get a new character, Guile, and every single character in the game now has a second V-skill. So what we're going to be doing in this video is going through every single character's new V-skill 2. So 38 V-skill 2s. That's what we're going to be doing. So there's going to be timestamps in the video description if you want to skip ahead to the character you are particularly interested in. But for now, let's start at the start, and let's start with Ryu. So for Ryu's V-skill 2 here, we have this very powerful punch. Now the punch in and of itself is nothing to write home about, but combined with this fact that it has a guard point, which is a little bit different than armor, has a guard point, meaning it can tank all sorts of attacks. And as you can see here too, if you manage to get the guard point off, it actually does an additional hit versus just the solo hit it has right now. So this, just so you know, it doesn't happen right away. It's not a frame one deal. So if you try to do it too late, you will get smacked out of it. But it is very good for just bulldogging through stuff. And also it does indeed go through low attacks, as you can see there. So if you're just looking to bully your way in with some decent range, and range has been it has been an issue for Ryu in Street Fighter V. You know, let's put it that way. Range has always been an issue for Ryu, right? So if you're just looking to bully your way in, man, you're not going to do too much better than this. Nice little chunk of damage. It's safe on block if you space it correctly. It guard points on everything as long as it's not like, you know, in the first couple frames. So just a very solid all-around move. Ken's new V-skill is a hopping style kick. Very similar to Capcom vs. SNK 2 if you ever played that. And with the arc, you can basically infer, yeah, you can definitely go over fireballs. So in and of itself, as you can see here, it's +4 on hit, so you can indeed combo from it. And you can hold the move as well. Gives it a slight bit of charge, and the move becomes more plus on block, meaning you can get new combo routes from it, as you can see there. Now, as for the move on block, it's only -2, and if you do hold it, it becomes +3 on block. So the hold version is also very good for pressure. You get a combo on hit, and if it gets blocked, hey, it's still your turn. So is this going to replace the run? I don't know, but it certainly looks like it's a decent enough pressure style V-skill. You can just hop over a lot of garbage. If it's blocked, well, hey, it's only low negative unless you want to hold it, then hey, it's still your turn. So overall, while it's a simple V-skill and its applications are eminently obvious, I still think it's a pretty cool one. Chun-Li's new V-skill is her classic move, the Hizonshu, the axe kick. Now, despite what it looks like, it is not an overhead, just so you know. And you can also change the distance a little bit. So you have the regular distance, which has a decent bit of range. And you can also hold back to shorten it. Now, the reason you would want to shorten it is it is technically unsafe on block, being -4. However, at certain distances here, -4 this far away, that's safe against most of the cast, right? And obviously it gets safer and safer the further out you are. Now, another thing to note here, this is true airborne. So that means you can't throw people, or rather people can't throw you out of it. Meaning it's very good, you know, shimmy style situations where maybe you can't back up far enough to get out of the grab. Or if you just smell a grab coming, you can just hit the button, Hizonshu out of it. So it gives her another way to get in, which sometimes against certain characters can be a little bit of an issue. It goes over fireballs, easy peasy. And once again, when it's spaced correctly, it's eminently safe. So you don't have to worry about that, right? But it doesn't, you know, combo. It is a knockdown on hit, which is a little unfortunate. You think maybe you can get like a counter hit combo thing going on, but still, overall, it's a decent addition to the moveset. So Cammy's V-skill 2 is a pretty basic one, but hey, it does what it's designed to do. So it's a little bit of a retreating hit. And in this retreating hit, she is true airborne, so you cannot throw her, easily goes over lows. And she just gives you a smack. This move is a little bit negative, but once again, she moves herself backwards, which helps protect her. And this move can also be cancelled from normals as well, so you can just really amp up that pushback. Now, another thing to note about this move is it is indeed a crush counter OK move. And from there, you can easily combo from it. You're not going to get a big combo necessarily, but you can combo from it. So especially people who are just, you know, very happy on mashing for techs, very easy crush counter on them thanks to that, and you can get your combo from there. For Charlie Nash, his new V Skill 2 buffs all of his Sonic Scythe moves. And one, across the board, it just gives more damage. So like, that's the light version that does 90, normally would do 80. The heavy version does 120. You might notice it launches a lot higher. We'll talk about that in a second here. Versus the regular version here only does 110, and so on and so forth. So you get more damage, right? But they also have properties changed. So for the light version here, normally it's, you know, punishable on block. But how about we change that? Now instead of punishable on block, it is now plus on block. So if you have this stacked up here, you can do whatever block string, say, nah, it's still my turn at the end of your block string. You can just be close to the enemy and just threaten them with buttons or whatever you want to do, right? And now for the medium version here, what it does is it significantly expands the range of the move. As you can see, normally it does not hit from that far away. So if you're using this in neutral, well then all of a sudden you got a much more powerful tool and you can threaten with medium Sonic Scythe from quite a larger distance away. And as for the heavy version, well, it just straight up turns it into a juggle starter. As you can see there, you don't need anything special. The heavy version just becomes a juggle starter. Now, once you use the Sonic Scythe, whatever version it is, that's it. You got to reapply the buff, right? But still, it makes these moves just a lot more valuable. The other V-Skill 1, its usage is limited outside of matches with no real fireballs. And it buffs moves you're going to be using anyway, so I think it is a pretty cool V-Skill too. Bison's new V-Skill is a teleport attack. So he will just teleport to the other side of the enemy and do the Lindy Hop and just give him a big old knee. So this teleport will happen if you're right beside the enemy, and even if you're exact full screen, it's still going to get you. And just so you know, this does cause a juggle okay state so you can get a follow-up. And even more importantly than that, so this move is indeed plus on block. It's only +1, but +1 is all you need, especially when you got a 3-frame move, right? So this is pretty cool. So if you feel the enemy's going to commit to something from full screen, you can just teleport beyond them in a jiffy, and if they block, hey, it's still your turn. Maybe Bison didn't need more teleport stuff, but he got it, so hey, there you go. So Vega's new V-Skill is a flip. And this flip has a follow-up as well, which we'll talk about in a second here. But the flip itself is a very invincible move. I don't believe it's on frame 1, at least for my early testings, but frame 2 and up, you can definitely just go through everything. Now, you will still get thrown out of it, just so you know, just to dissuade you just from doing this, like every bit of pressure thrown your way, right? But yeah, it's very invincible. Now, also note here the kick follow-up. So the kick follow-up, basically if you flip and you catch them overextend or whatever, to note, it is a juggle okay move, meaning get a follow-up. And also depending on where you might hit the enemy, if they are a little bit higher up in the air, you can go for stuff like EX wall dives. So it gives them a defensive measure, basically. Vega as a character has always suffered with defense. He has some of the worst defense in the game. It won't save you too much when you're already in the corner, but mid-screen, it's a good spacing tool. And once again, it's a very, very, very invincible move. So you can just do this here and you catch them overextend, cool, hit, combo time. Now, Birdie certainly has one of the more unique V-Skill 2s, to be sure. So it's all about bubblegum. So if you just do it by itself, he'll pop just a bit of bubblegum and eat it, which will definitely cause problems later on, I'm sure. And as you can see here, looking at his V-gauge, he gains just a little bit of V-gauge every time he eats the gum. And now the big thing is if you hold it. If you hold it, hey, what's this guy here? So it's a piece of bubblegum. And from there, you can do a lot of stuff with it, not the least of which is launch it. And yes, my friends, that is a projectile. So when you hold it here, 1, it is a projectile shield that will clash with projectiles. 2, you can expand it. So if you hit kicks, you blow that bubble even bigger, as you can see there. So now it has a much wider hitbox, and then you can launch it from there. So the punches are the ones that launch it. So light punch just explodes it as it is. Medium punch here has a shallow arc. And Heavy Punch has a longer arc. And the arc will change too, so say we'll do Heavy again here. If you're crouching, the arc does change a little bit as well. Now, one thing to note here, while you have the gum in your mouth here, you cannot jump or anything. Can't do specials. You only shoot the gum. So just keep that in mind, but still, it's a bit of a threat here. Because this eats up a lot of real estate, to say the least, right? This eats up a big portion of the screen that Birdie can then basically just instantly own without too much fear. So you really got to pay attention to it. And I just think it's a really cool one. Karin's new V-skill is the Palm Strike here. And just like you might think just by looking at it, this does indeed clash and break fireballs for one, which is always interesting and fun. And this move is also hold okay. You can hold it for a little bit longer. And when you hold it for a little bit longer, so say we're +3 on hit, if we hold it, all of a sudden, hey, +4 on hit. Now, most importantly here, the charge version, as you see here, it's negative on block. The charge version, plus on block. So if you manage to get the charge version, it is indeed your turn. And on top of that, say if the opponent is very mash happy, this move is indeed a crush counter okay move. So you can get all sorts of combo follow-ups and all that kind of fun stuff. Fairly basic, but once again, basic is fine. Clashing with projectiles gains you more V gauge every time you clash with the projectile. And the ability to steal turns by making a plus on block if you hold it and all that kind of good stuff. It's just downright solid. Maybe not a revolution of the character, but still, it's decent. So Rainbow Mika's new V skill is indeed a counterattack. So she will strike a mighty pose, and if you try to hit her during this mighty pose, she's gonna clock your skull in. So, and besides that, it's just a fairly basic counterattack. One thing to note, it will not counter lows. So it is kind of an auto-lose situation against lows, or projectiles. She can't exactly clothesline a projectile, right? But still, it's a good little defensive option for someone who doesn't really have too much in the way of defensive options. So it is kind of interesting. For Zangief's V skill 2, he gives you a taste of that sweet chin music. And to be real, this is just basically a focus attack. So if you played any amount of Street Fighter 4, you already know what I'm talking about, but just in case you don't, 1, you can hold this move. 2, you can dash cancel out of this move. 3, the move is indeed armored, as you can see there. And hey, if you let it just rock, it's time for some combo opportunities, as you can see right there. So you can basically use it in all the ways you could use a focus attack in Street Fighter 4. So you can just, hit, and when the armor takes the hit, you just smack them. You can take the hit, dash cancel, and then go for like a pile drive or something like that. There's a lot of ways you can go around it. Also, like Street Fighter 4, if it is held all the way, it is a guard break, as you see here, +11. So you can basically do whatever you want after the fact. So yeah, if you were a big fan of Street Fighter 4, then hey, maybe this is the thing you need to come back to Zangief, because in all respects, it is a focus attack. The safeness on block, don't do it point blank sometimes, but -4 at this distance is like whatever. That's basically safe, right? So if you're looking to just catch footsies, it's a really good tool for that. And the more he tunes up the band here with every stomp, it's one more big threat away from getting your guard crush. So use it just like a focus attack. Dhalsim's is a fun one. So it turbocharges your basic Yoga Flames. So first up here, it does turn them into 2 hitting moves. And with it being 2 hits also, hey, does a little bit more damage. And it lets them bounce off the ground, letting the screen control just kind of get out of control, as you can see here. So they are on screen for a lot longer than usual, and also they can come at weird angles because, hey, just bounced off the wall and came back on the other side, right? So it is pretty cool. Also, it does change how the EX Flame works here. So EX Flame does 3 hits instead of 2, and it's also much more plus on hit. As you see, the basic one is +5, and if I want to do the EX one here, +15. So I can do stuff like this. And that's a combo that wouldn't be normally possible, right? So it gives you more combo ability if you have it up. And also just, Dhalsim's a character that's all about screen control anyways, right? And it just turns your screen control into an even more potent force. So, for Rashid, there's always been a long-standing joke that Rashid is not a Street Fighter character, he's a Marvel vs. Capcom character, and V-Skill 2 says, well, let's make that joke a reality, because he has air dashes now. So the air dash, that's the V-Skill, so you can do it on the ground. Basically, wall jumps off a non-existent wall, you can do it in the air. Air, you can do it off neutral and forward jumps, but you cannot do it off a backwards jump, just so you know. You can also special cancel it from, say, you know, your whirlwinds, all that kind of stuff. And also, it has a follow-up. So if you do it and hit kick right away, he will do basically an eagle spike dive kick, just like his grounded one, right? Just a little different angle. Now, also, you can just not do it, and then you can get any jumping normal from it. And of course, you know, cross-ups and stuff like that, right? So yeah, it's very silly to say the least. And it'll give you all sorts of mobility options. Also, if you say do eagle spike through the tornado, you can then cancel and then do even more fun stuff and just do the V skill, go back through the tornado, come out the other side, and it's basically it's all about movement, and confusion. So yeah, you joked. He's a Marvel character, and now, hey, he basically actually is a Marvel character. So Laura has a command hop now for her V-skill, which she can do two things from. She can do command hop and kick here, and it's a bit of an axe kick. And it's also just plus enough on regular hit to combo, as you can see there. And she can throw a friggin' fireball from the air like Akuma. What? Well, regardless of whose decision this was to be a thing, hey, you can do it. So, you know, obviously the hop's also an evasive maneuver, hop over fireballs, all that kind of fun stuff, right? But yeah, so she can either come in and, you know, go for the attack, or just go crazy with the air fireballs. They're both pretty safe on block as well, so not too much risk on the block. If you are in V-Trigger 1 as well, the fireballs can be held, just like her normal fireballs being held. And from there, they do more damage, delay, all that kind of fun stuff. So yeah. If you ever thought Laura was cool, but you just wish she was more like Akuma, well, hey, you got your wish, I guess. So, of all the things I would have expected for V-Skill 2 for Laura, this definitely wasn't it. But, hey, I guess that's what makes it very interesting. Fang's new V-Skill 2 gives him a counter attack. So he'll strike this lovely little pose here, and if the enemy hits him while he's in the pose, he'll give him a good smack and apply the poison. Now, unlike some counter-style moves, this move actually will indeed beat lows as well, as you can see there. So, other than that, there's not much to it. It applies the very crucial poison mechanic, which once again is basically everything that Fang is about. And since Fang doesn't have too much in the way of defensive mechanics, a counterattack is a welcome addition. Necalli's new V-skill is an interesting one. For lack of a more elegant term, he just pukes up this big blob. And this blob travels very low to the ground, so it's not going to be clashing or interacting with, you know, any other projectiles. And if it hits, well then, hey, causes a crumple state from which you can combo afterwards. The main use is basically, you know, just like Guile 101. You want to follow after it, and they'll kind of guide your advance. If it blocks, well then, hey, cool, pressure. You can just trick people into making the bad decision, and it'll just cover a lot of mistakes for you, because it's a very slow traveling projectile. Now, I guess, in and of itself, I think it's fantastic, actually. Just because you walk behind it and then they're going to do something. If they do something stupid like jump, you can DP him out of the air, or whatever you want to do, right? The only thing is, he definitely has one of the most useful V-skill ones in the game in the ground pound, so I guess the question is this worth giving up the ground pound for? But as far as what it's designed to do to give you pressure, due to the fact it's so low to the ground and you can easily walk behind it, it's definitely fantastic at its job. So for Alex's new V-skill, this guy right here, it basically lets you break the rules of how combo structure works. Case in point, chop into EX knee. This is not normally how this works, because I just special canceled a special into another special. This is something I can mash as much as I want. It's not normally a natural combo, but with this, it is indeed a natural combo. So also, one thing to keep in mind here, since, you know, you can do whatever you want, so I can say go right into elbow into flash chop, That's another example. It also lets you make unsafe stuff, well, safe. So say we're going for the stomps. So stomp is not a safe move. However, if I have the V skill up here, I can chain my stomp into a light elbow. And light elbow is indeed safe on block. So basically, it ups your combo damage and potential. And if you're kind of guy who just goes Rago and crazy and just does stomps whenever, at the very least, it lets you make stomps safe on block if you do get caught. So overall, Alex's V-Skill 1, I'm never been a fan of it anyways. And this just gives you a lot more potential to work with. And plus, once again, it just makes random stomps a true threat. Because it basically makes them safe now. So hey, thumbs up from me. So for Guile's V-Skill 2, he took a trip back to the past and got some of that Rainbow Edition juice, because it's a jumping air sonic boom. Yeah, it's pretty bananas. So being an airborne hop and all that, you can go over projectiles and then, you know, bonk them with your sonic boom. Keep in mind, it is definitely punishable on block if you do it, you know, in their face, right? It is meant to be a spacing tool. But basically, it's another way to advance with Guile and, you know, put a threat on screen without having to have charge. Because, you know, it's just a V-Skill. You don't need any charge. But yeah, very interesting to say the least. Not something I ever expected to see from him. So for Ibuki, if you're a fan of Mortal Kombat X, and I got good news for you, because Ibuki has turned into Aaron Black with those nice shiny caltrops all along the way. So the move by itself is actually quite slow as she throws all 3 caltrops, but you can indeed make it a little bit quicker by hitting the punch button, and what will happen is she'll cancel the animation just a bit early and only throw 1. Now, just so you know, which button you press does affect the distance. So light goes, you know, hey, goes close. Heavy goes far, and once you know it, medium goes about a medium length, right? Now, one thing to note also, you can cancel your kunais into the caltrop. So just simple as that. It just works like a normal into a special cancel, except it's a special into a V-skill cancel. So when it comes to the space control, each one of these is an active hitbox. So if you step on them, you're gonna get hit. Really that simple. So you get to control a lot of space, to say the least. I guess time will tell how effective this is in the end, but basically the floor is lava while these guys are up, so the enemy definitely has to respect them. Balrog's new V-Skill turbocharges his dash straight punches. So first up here, just so you know, the animation's sick. He does like a little bit of a Dempsey roll, and then all of a sudden your average dash punch, well, on top of doing more damage, you might notice it caused a little bit of a juggle state. And my friends, that juggle state, well, hey, I guess you can probably guess where this is going, but you can totally combo after it. And this applies as well to the X version as well. As you can see here, just that's some ripping damage, to say the least. And that is not all. So first up and foremost here, so say we have the enemy set to block. So an average dash rate, and we'll use light as the base here, you know, it's safe if it's spaced, right? -4, which is technically punishable, but at the distance, you usually use that. It's totally safe. The charge up version, yo, plus on block. So you can just let it go. If it hits, awesome, whatever, right? And if not, then hey, you're just plus and in their face. It is your turn. Now, another thing to note. You might notice here, I'm not crouch blocking. In fact, you know, I'm going to walk forward. Hey, how come I can still do the dash punch? Well, when you have the V-Skill up, it removes the charge requirement. You don't got to charge, so you can just walk forward and then just let it rip. So it basically just makes this the go-to move. Combo starter plus on block, no more charge requirement. What more could you want? I guess the only thing is you would have to give up the V-Skill 1, which is a really good V-Skill. But yeah, man, this just turns this into an instrument of destruction, to say the least. For Juri's new V-Skill, name of the game is basically pressure. So it's 2 parts here. The first part, you do need to store it, just like, you know, everything else for Juri, right? It's got to be stored. And then once you release it, It's just a little bit of a very slow-moving sonic boom, I guess if you want to call it. And from that sonic boom, hey, you can walk behind it, you can set it up on their wake up, all that cool stuff. Now, another thing to note here, it is cancelable from her Fuha kicks here, so you can do something like that. But yeah, the name of the game is you store it, knock them down, and just set it up on them, and then just pressure, pressure, pressure. Not too complex. You're going to basically want to use it as a blunt hammer, but still, hey, that's what it's there for. Now, in a running theme with a lot of the new V-skills, this V-skill turbocharges an aspect of Urien. And for Urien, the part that gets turbocharged is his fireballs. So as you can see here, starts off as a pretty crazy shape, and the basic projectile, as you can tell, is 2 hits. So normally you'd have to like burn a bar or charge it for 2 hits. For this, the basic fireball is now minimum 2 hits, and I say minimum because if you manage to hit the enemy in the part where the fireball is exceptionally large, it becomes 3 hits. This affects all versions. That's the medium. This is the anti-air version. As you can see here, it eats up a lot more real estate in the air, so definitely a lot harder to navigate around, right? But yeah, it just turbocharges the move. Also, the EX version now comes 5 hits instead of 2, so that's kind of cool. But yeah, it just makes the fireball game even more of a threat. Urien has some of the better projectiles anyways, and it's pretty quick to do. He's not really committed to the charge at like any real length. His V-skill 1 kind of sucks anyways, so hey, might as well not, right? Get more damage, more hits, all that kind of fun stuff. Hey, I say go for it. Akuma's new V-skill, he strikes the classic pose. But not only that, hey, if I hold down the buttons, he keeps the pose. And hey, have a look at the V-gauge down below, because when you are holding the pose, you build V-gauge. So on top of this, hey, it also has a hittable box, so you can hit the enemy with it. And it does indeed crush projectiles. So in a situation where you're crushing a projectile, you can crush it, hold it just a smidge, gain a little bit of extra V-gauge. This V-skill is cancelable from normal, so you can use it also as an alternative combo ender, and say at that end of that alternative combo, well, and then just hold it, build a little gauge, make them want to do something stupid on their wake up, at which point, DP, throw a fireball, whatever you might have in mind. But yeah, very interesting, especially, hey, building gauge is a big deal, as Akuma absolutely has some of the best V triggers in the game. So building gauge is absolutely something you want to work towards. So for Kolin, very interesting because it changes her archetype. Because her new V-skill is a command grab, straight up. And if you look at the top at the stun bar, the command grab also applies the free state, which, hey, that's one of her main things. It is not the fastest command grab, to be sure. It's definitely not like Zangief, but still, a command grab it is nevertheless. So you can do a lot of fun stuff with that in mind, especially because it lets you manually apply the free state, which is something she has some difficulty doing outside of the V triggers. Another thing to note is it combos directly from her target combo. So if you are in the target combo, you can just directly end with the command grab, go right into the free state from there. Another thing to note in V-Trigger 2 specifically, on your medium backsway, you can cancel the medium backsway also into the command grab. So there's a lot of layers and a lot of ways to get this. She's obviously a character that normally does not have a command grab, so it is definitely a pretty cool thing, no pun intended, to have. Now, when it comes to Ed's new V-skill, it actually comes in 2 flavors, as it's a modular move. The first up here, just the move as it stands, just regular old V-skill. It's basically one of the anti-fireball moves that, many people have. So while he does this little sway, fireballs go through him and he does the punch. It's not terribly safe on block, so I would just say, watch out for that. As here, -6, it's maybe okay with a little bit of spacing, but you gotta watch out. Now you can also hold it, and it extends the part where he's invulnerable to fireballs, so if you're a little further away, well then hey, maybe it'll give you the exact distance you need. And now if you also hit down in V-skill, he does basically like an anti-air uppercut. Now as far as it is on block, also a little unsafe, but you can hold it, and if you hold it, hey, all of a sudden it comes plus on block. Now as far as the move actually hitting as well, so if it hits, hey, it hits, right? Same deal with the base V skill here. The down version, though, if it hits, it's a launch OK state, juggle OK state, so you can get follow-ups from it. So there's potentially new combo potential, new combo routes you can work from there. Now, Abigail has a very fun V-skill too, and I think I've said that a few times already in this video, but hey, a lot of the new V-skills are really cool, right? So Abigail summons a friggin' tire! Just rolls in from off screen. And the tire's active all the way through. Once the tire's on screen, if you hit Abigail, it doesn't matter, the tire is still there. It's still just an active hitbox. And there's a lot of fun stuff about the tire, not the least of which... Hey! You can bounce it around. So you can bounce it around for like weird angles, fun angles, all that kind of stuff. And the enemy can do this as well, so you can have a little bit of a tug-of-war with the tire. And also, depending on the move you hit it with, you know, it'll change how the trajectory goes and all that kind of stuff. So say you crank it with a heavy move. Boom! All of a sudden, it becomes a very damaging high-speed projectile, as you can see there with a nice bit of a knockdown. And this will happen with a lot of the heavies. And yeah, the angle's everything. So you can send it flying up high in the air if you want. There's basically all sorts of angles to play around with, right? Be it straight across, diagonal, up in the air, land on the head, all that kind of fun stuff. And that's not where the fun ends. So one of the things about this V-skill is from EX Abigail punches specifically, you can cancel the end of EX Abigail punches into the V-skill, so you guys basically have pre-baked pressure. So you can end your combo and EX Abigail punches, go right into the tire, and then just charge forward. Once again, remember, if Abigail's hit, the tire doesn't go away. So if you want to get a little crazy on it, you can still rely on the tire to save your bacon if you get smacked. But yeah, this will basically change a lot of the ways you want to play Abigail, I think. And that's basically the success of a V-skill is, you know, changing the way you want to play the character. So with this, I don't know. I think the boy's got a new lease on life. There'll be all sorts of setups and pressure and all that really cool and interesting stuff. Menat's V-skill 2 is Soul Spiral. Very similar to the Soul Spiral that Rose has. So, I guess in a weird way, you can also make this a sad deconfirmation of Rose, which whatever. But yeah, it's a big charging punch. So there's two things about this. So when you hold the orb, the punch itself, it will crush projectiles. And just so we know, this is not really safe on block, almost from any distance. But yeah, it will crush projectiles. If you have the orb out, it will not crush projectiles. You will get hit. But when you don't have the orb out, the move then becomes special cancelable. So you can make that safe on block versus the orb version, which is less safe on block. So they both have, you know, basically their own little niche to work in. The move itself, you can cancel into it from normals, just so you know. Easy peasy. Comboing into it with normals is pretty much only the realm of not having the orb. As if you do have the orb, well then, hey, a lot of normals that you would special cancel from, well, they don't exist, right? Because the normals are different. Something like Stand Jab just isn't fast enough to combo. So if you want combos with the V-skill, hey, you got to have the orb set up. But hey, that's fine. That's kind of what you want anyways, right? You know, you can set up all your fun stuff. So it works out just great. Gets you a little bit more damage than you might otherwise get. For Zeku. Zeku being a modular person, as you know, he can easily change which form he's in. The V-skill changes the match. So first up here, when you're in old Zeku form, hey, you might remember from Marvel vs. Capcom, you know, birds and all these kind of stuff, dropping stuff for you. Works the same for him. Drops a bit of a firecracker bomb. So it'll take a second for the firecrackers to explode. And keep in mind too, you can aim this. So if you hold back in V-skill, the crackers will be close. And if you hold far and V-skill, the bird will drop it further along the line. Now, if you are in young stance, it now changes as well, as you got a Kung Fu Weasel doing a big old kick. And one of the things about it is after you summon it, you can easily follow behind it, leading to all sorts of pressure and combo situations. So between the two, it's basically, hey, which are you feeling? Old stance, this is definitely more of a set play thing, right? You definitely want to put a threat on the screen and just see how the enemy reacts. And while you're in Young Zeku, keep in mind how Young Zeku plays. This is more of the crazy guy version, where you're just going to be doing all sorts of stuff, just pressure, pressure, pressure. Now, one unfortunate thing for the Kung Fu Weasel is M.Bison can send them to the Chaos Dimension and send them back to you as a projectile. So this poor Weasel will enter the portal and just not quite never to be seen again, because he'll show up the next time you hit the button, but still Bison can just banish this guy, which I find hilarious. Sakura's new V skill is a combat roll here. Now, just so you know, despite what you would think in a fighting game about a roll, it doesn't really grant any evasive properties, but it is good for space and all that kind of stuff, and can be used in combos. And if you hold it, she will do a knee strike follow-up. Not really safe on block, but still combo okay afterwards. So you can get sort of follow-ups, and this will lead to new combo routes as well. I haven't really labbed it because I'm going through all this stuff, right? But you smart Sakura players, you'll figure out. But she definitely has new combo potential and new combo routes thanks to this V skill. Blanka's V skill 2 is a bit of a ground pound that causes an electric shock. Just so you know, first and foremost, this move is effectively safe on block at all ranges other than literally point blank. So the thing about this is you can hold it. And as you can see here, when he glows yellow, the move changes quite a bit as they have a big old launch. And as you might expect with that big old launch, this move is indeed juggle okay and has combo potential. Now, another thing about this is the move, if you hold it, is dash cancelable. And if you dash cancel after the part where he turns yellow, you will have the V skill stored. So now you don't have to charge anymore and you can just let it rip and you will get the fully charged version. So it'll definitely be valuable when you're just kind of faffing for space. Just get in there, get it charged, backspace out. Now you just have it ready for whenever you need it. So this can potentially give him a lot new combo routes and a lot more combo potential. Also, just to quickly note here, the charged version is plus on block. For Falke, we have a orb for our new V skill. So the orb in and of itself doesn't really do too much. If you see here, I just put it right on top of Ken. Well, it ain't doing much. If it hits the end of its duration, though, it will explode, just so you know. But the whole thing about this is you get to make it explode early. And how do you do it? Well, just give it a whack with the stick, basically. So you can set this up multiple ways. We have it highway here, the upper version. We also have it in a lower version if you just hold down a V skill. And much the same here, you just smack it and it explodes. And you can smack it with anything, right? It could be like low gunshot. It doesn't really matter as long as it's a stick-based move or projectile-based move. If you hold back or down back, it'll be in place, waiting for you to give it a smack and explode on the enemy. So basically, this is the set play / screen control V skill. So effectively, the enemy has to know and respect that you can detonate it in a myriad of ways, either with basic normals or special moves. So yeah, it's just basically another pressure style V skill, and it's pretty cool and interesting, and I think this is another V skill that if you pick it, then your game plan wildly changes around it. Cody's V skill 2 is an SNK style spot dodge, coming in both high versions and low versions. Or if you're a fan of Dragon Ball FighterZ, think of it like Vidal's Reflect. So the high spot dodge, hey, as you think, it goes through basically everything that's not a low, and the low version, hey, it gets to lows. So invincible to strikes, invincible to projectiles. Also, both of them have a follow-up. The high version has a punch follow-up, and the low version has a kick follow-up. Also, the punch follow-up, just so you know, is special cancelable. So you can do this and cancel into it. So yeah, it's just a defensive measure for Cody. I wouldn't go mashing it too much. The moves themselves, just so you know, as far as it goes on block, well, don't do it too close, because you can see here -7 is not the best in the world. The kick -6, also not the best. It's all about the spacing. Don't do it point blank, unless you just need to dodge, at which point you can try and throw him or something like that. But yeah, a good defensive measure for Cody. G's V skill 2 is not immediately apparent what it does. So if you do it here, you know, he flexes on you, does some nice poses, all that stuff. But what does it actually do? Well, it's twofold. One of the main things about G is obviously the presidentiality thing, right? You build up your presidentiality, but what sucks is every time you get knocked down, you lose a stage of your presidentiality. Well, with the V skill, you will no longer lose it when you get knocked down. Now, it'll only cover one knockdown, then it's used up. So if you get knocked down again, it will go away. But it's basically a buffer to make sure you keep your presidentiality meter. Now, another thing as well. How about we have Ken kick us in the head here? Well, let's see there. So he's kicking us in the head, and it's doing 80 damage. But hey, let's build up our V skill a bit. Hey, what? Why does it say 56? His move does 80 damage. So why on earth is it saying 56? It's because each time you do your V scale 2, you get a damage resistant buff. Now, this might be similar to someone else in a Street Fighter game you might know, who also might actually be G, but they never actually say that. But yeah, so this is a stacking damage resistance buff. So each time you do it, and it'll go up to 3 stages, is a 10% damage resistant buff for you. And it is there until, like many things like G, until you get knocked down. Second you get knocked down, then you lose all those buffs. So basically, this V skill is 1, protecting your presidentiality meter. As long as you have it, you get knocked down, it'll save your presidentiality so you don't have to rebuild all the time. And 2, it just gives you more defense. You can take hits better than other characters in the game, which basically, as long as you use it correctly, gives them effectively the most health in the game. So yeah, very cool and very interesting. His V skill 1's very good, so it might be painful to give it up, but still I think it's very cool. So keeping with the fact that a lot of the new V skill 2s are basically buffs and turbocharging a certain move. Sagat, doing a nice little squat, turbocharges the Tiger Knee. So first up here, the Tiger Knee is now juggle okay. So that's something you couldn't really do before. And also it changes the values on block. So now we have the enemy to block. Say we do a light knee point blank. -2, but normally it'd be -6, right? So basically, when you have Tiger Knees and they're properly spaced, now all of a sudden you have a wide variety of very plus unblocked Tiger Knees. And if it's blocked, hey, it's your turn. And if not, that means it hit. Then boom, full combo, right? Basically, once again, it just turns the Tiger Knee from a nice tool to a big pressure sledgehammer. Kage's V skill 2 is another hop style V skill, so it will go over things while striking the enemy. Despite what it looks like, it is not an overhead, just so you know. Also very safe on block. You can also change the range. If you hold forward and V skill, you will go further than otherwise normal. Now, a thing about this is this also kind of radically changes when you're in V trigger 1. As the move itself, hey, as you can see here, very visually different, and is a juggle okay move, meaning you can combo afterwards. So the move is effectively turbocharged while you are in V trigger 1. The move itself, kind of ho-hum. Once again, it's very visually deceptive because this totally reads as an overhead, and it just isn't. If you get a counter hit, you can combo into a stand jab afterwards. But other than that, it's pretty basic and just another hop style V skill 2. Poison's V skill 2 is a cartwheel. So it is not a defensive cartwheel. You're not going past fireballs or anything like that, just so you know. But what it is a side switcher. So you can just go through the enemy character and just pass right through them. Also, if you hold it, it does have a follow-up here with a kick. And this kick is special cancelable, so you can go right into it. You can also combo after, say, your EX kick, go right into the V skill, go right into a follow-up. So it's basically a positioning style move that also extends combos. Pretty basic, but hey, since you can like normal cancel into it and all that, you're going to be gimmicking people out for days with this kind of stuff. So just watch out and just go out and steal some wins you don't deserve with this, because people will get tricked out and they'll block wrong and all that fun stuff. So E Honda has another buff style V skill 2, and this buff buffs the 100 hand slaps. So in and of itself, it just does a little bit more damage, right? So with the buff that did 210, without the buff that would do 201. So that's not a huge damage buff, right? But the big deal is it just basically totally opens up combo potential. So say if I comboed into light hands by itself, right? +3. But if I want to get like an actual combo, I'll have to do EX hands, which is +4. So I can combo into stand light and go into something else, right? But if I have the buff, then all of a sudden, hey, that's +4, which means I can go right into it. And say if I was doing the EX with the buff up, that's +6 now, meaning I can combo into medium kick when I could never do that before, right? So on top of being a little bit more damaging in and of itself, it'll also allow for more damage by allowing this brand new combo routes. Once again here, the basic hands by themselves, normally that's it. Like your plus, that's great, that's fantastic. But combo, hey, not so much. But now with the buff here, there's a combo that was never really possible before off normal non-EX hands. So basically, just like many other V-Skill 2s, it takes a move, turbocharges it. And for our final character, Lucia. Lucia, she has another modular style V-Skill 2. So first up here, she does have a hop style move, and it works just the way you think it is, like many of the other ones. Goes over projectiles, not safe on block at point blank, but with a minimal amount of spacing, you can make it pretty safe. And the other part, so her command run, if you do the V-Skill during the command run, it becomes a knee. Now, both of these moves are enhanced when she's in V-Trigger 1. So the hop kick here becomes a more damaging move here, so it does 100 versus the 90 it does. So, hey, more damage is nice, right? And the run into the V-Skill here, all of a sudden it'll pop up and do more damage yet. So, as it stands, you know, it's not too dissimilar to a couple other V-Skills we've seen. You know, we have more than a few hop style ones designed to go over projectiles, but still, hey, there you go. And there you have it. So that is the V-Skill 2 of every one of the 38 characters in the game. And Guile, as the time of this recording, he's not live just yet, but I'm sure he will be soon. He also has a V-Skill 1 and 2 of himself, but I can't check it at the moment. But yeah, I think a lot of these are winners, and a lot of these are going to be ones you're going to want to use. Some of these are maybe not the most inspired, but still, they're good as like a brute force hammer. And some of these, well, some stink, but hey, that's the way it happens, right? That's the way the dice roll. I think a lot of the interesting ones are stuff like Necalli's. So for Necalli, the V-Skill 2 I think is fantastic, but the thing is his V-Skill 1 is already so good and is such an integral part to how the character works. It's almost like, how do you give it up, right? So I guess we'll see how that goes. Once again, some are going to be obvious picks and some are just going to be left by the wayside, but still, overall, definitely a very good addition to the game. Anyways, my friends, that is it for this video. So thank you very much for watching. Hope this video found you well. Go out and play some Street Fighter.